Story 1. The lack of baby changing stations in public male restrooms, while almost all female restrooms have them. Excuse me if my child needs a fresh diaper and my wife is in the middle of her meal. Do you want me to change the diaper on the table or at the sink? Story 2. The assumption that my wife, rather than I, baked a pie or cookies that I bring to a party or work. When my wife brings my pies to an occasion, no one asks her who made them. Story 3. A working mother is allowing other people to raise her children, while a working father is simply providing. Story 4. In the United Kingdom, rape is defined as penetration by a penis. My friend in high school was groomed by a teacher and conceived a child with him. The teacher received community service. Story 5. Not being able to openly care for or be gentle to small children without people thinking you are inappropriate. I have 3 nieces and a nephew, as well as a group of unrelated little children that I wholeheartedly love and would do anything for. The fact that I get looked at suspiciously when I take them out by myself is very annoying. Story 6. Drugs are mainly tested on men, which means women experience more severe side effects and sometimes the drug becomes too dangerous for them. Additionally, there are thousands of studies on how to treat erectile dysfunction and almost none on how to treat endometriosis, a condition that causes many deaths among women each year. Story 7. Promiscuity. Not too long ago at a party, my wife and I shared the story of how we met, which is that we hooked up at a rave and turned it into a decades-long marriage. People responded by loving the story and congratulating me on meeting an attractive woman at a rave, and to her by saying she was lucky a decent man helped her change her ways and become an honest woman. Same people, same party, all old enough to know better. Story 8. Gender-based medical bias. If a man goes to the hospital with abdominal pain, he will be seen immediately because they believe him when he says he is in excruciating agony. Meanwhile, if a woman goes to the hospital with abdominal pain, it is often assumed that she is overreacting, that it is not that bad, that it is probably just cramps or that she needs to drink water. A friend of mine was told she had a urinary tract infection and was sent home with amoxicillin. Her appendix burst a couple of hours later and she was in the hospital for weeks as the poisons drained out of her body. Another woman in one of my social circles was admonished for making a scene when she was vomiting in pain in the emergency room. An ovarian cyst had twisted her ovary around, and it was literally being strangled. It had to be removed via emergency surgery after she spent hours in pain waiting to be seen. Medical misogyny has cost countless women their health, their lives, and their livelihood. Story 9. When I cook dinner for a male guest, it is considered the bare minimum, and I receive little credit for it. When my fiancé cooks a meal of similar quality for the same male guest, I am suddenly told emphatically how my fiancé is such an amazing cook. Story 10. I got a vasectomy at 18 after one serious 10-minute conversation with a surgeon and a week of waiting. There are women in their 30s who can't get a surgeon to approve a tubal ligation procedure because of concerns like, what if you want children in your future? And other arbitrary social barriers that really shouldn't prevent access to healthcare in a developed country. I keep hearing stories about how doctors don't want to do their jobs when it comes to procedures women want and can pay for, having waited long enough to be sure. That makes my blood boil. I was trusted as a teenager to say, yeah, I've known since I was 12 that I never wanted kids. Give me the vasectomy. If by some chance I change my mind, I'd rather adopt. A woman who wants biological children is not the woman for me. They just took my word for it because I was an adult and they have a job and a professional responsibility. If I had been told, we can't do that, what if in 20 years you change your mind or regret this? I would have kept going to different doctors and clinics until I found a professional who behaves like a professional. I would have traveled to the far corners of the earth to ensure control over my body and future. So I'm very glad the first doctor I saw was reasonable. Women often have to get on waiting lists and obtain referrals, and in some countries they're simply not allowed to have such procedures. I am 27 now with no regrets. Story 11. This is an unpopular opinion, but I'll share it. There does not seem to be enough effort to make certain gynecological exams and procedures less painful. For example, I have heard about biopsies and intrauterine device placements being done without any anesthetic. Regarding the speculum, the standard information given is that the exam should not hurt unless a person has vaginismus or an infection. However, it does cause pain for some sexually active women with no infections. This issue should be researched, even if the percentage is small. Is the shape of the speculum a factor, or something else? Since women's anatomies vary, perhaps the current shape is generally designed to avoid pain, but some anatomical traits cause discomfort. I am not suggesting that gynecological exams are unimportant. This is a different concern focused on pain management. If men had to undergo similar exams, there would likely be much more attention to managing pain. Story 12. That our daughter can be interested in dinosaurs and diggers is cool and even cute. When our son says he likes sparkles and unicorns and wants to wear dresses in pink, people frown at that. Story 13. For whatever reason, sports like ballet and gymnastics are considered feminine. I have seen many boys participating in both sports being called girly. Story 14. Office dress codes. I am Australian, and in summer the men still have to wear button-up shirts, trousers, and dress shoes. The women are allowed to wear sleeveless dresses and sandals. My colleague was reprimanded for wearing a t-shirt to work with his jeans on Casual Friday. I had worn a t-shirt every day that week. Story 15. When an adult man has sexual relations with a teenage girl, it is pedophilia and a serious crime. When an adult woman does the same with a teenage boy, people say, "Good for him." Both are illegal and immoral and should not be normalized. In my case, it is less annoying and more infuriating. Story 16. That men cannot be sexually assaulted. I know many of my brothers have been through what I have or even worse, and they are dismissed because men cannot be raped or they must have wanted it or good for them. It is very frustrating. According to the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 9 boys experience sexual assault, and it affects both terribly. I hate the stereotypes about it. Story 17. Keep in mind, double standards are not a generalization. No one is saying all men or women are like this, just that the double standard exists. That said, this is one I have personally experienced on multiple occasions. Women who have male friends but do not want their significant other to have female friends. I have known most of my friends for years. If we were interested in each other romantically, we would have done something by now. I am not going to end a long-term friendship over the insecurities of someone I have only recently met. Story 18. Men who are commanding and hold a bold presence are seen as powerful, while women who embody the same traits are labeled negatively. Story 19. When deaths occur in war or terrorist incidents and women and children seem to be given more importance than men, it is all an equal tragedy. Story 20. I want to be able to wear skirts, but not as the main point of the outfit, just instead of shorts or jeans. There is nothing really stopping me, but I do not want it to be a spectacle. I wish it was just normal. They are so comfortable and freeing. It is unreal. Do not come at me with kilts because I live in the United Kingdom, and unless you are at a wedding or a funeral, it is seen as a bit extra. To be clear, I have nothing against kilts. They are just not for me, and as someone said, they are quite big and bulky anyway. I am not. What I wear at home is pashminas wrapped around my waist and tied. Functionally a skirt. I have developed a way of tying it so the multiple layers do not bind your legs but still cover everything. I have worn this to the park on hot days but do not think I could do it day to day without being self-conscious the whole time. Story 21. Doctors believe men but women are considered just overweight, experiencing something normal for this stage of their life, or being overly dramatic. Story 22. The fact that I, as a male, cannot kiss my child, hug my child, pick up my child in a certain way, or even check for a dirty diaper without someone misconstruing it as sexual. Story 23. Hair. Men can have hair all over their body and no one bats an eye, but if a woman does not shave her armpits or legs, it is considered disgusting. Why? Story 24. How female industries such as makeup, fashion, and hair praise men founders, stylists, and artists. But women working in male industries are never seen as enough or are considered out of their depth. Story 25. Showing nipples, either in public or on television and movies. Male nipples, nobody bats an eye, Female nipples, highly sexualized. Story 26. I do not know if this is a double standard or not, but seeing young boys in shirts that say ladies man rubs me the wrong way. I think it is because everyone thinks it is cute and innocent, but if a little girl has a boy best friend, it is seen as inappropriate. This is just my personal experience from growing up with a brother who spent time with many girls, and me spending time with many boys. Story 27. Male victims, especially of sexual assault, domestic violence, and intimate partner violence, are often not believed, and female perpetrators are not held accountable. In some families, good fathers escape with the children from abusive mothers, wives, or girlfriends. Story 28. An aging man is considered dignified and distinguished. An aging woman is seen as washed up and in need of a makeover. Observe how gray hair is treated differently for men compared to women. Story 29. Formal clothing standards require men and women to dress for completely different weather conditions. Women often wear a single layer of thin fabric in sparkly colors or sleek black, with no sleeves and an open back. At the same event, men are expected to wear 2 layers of wool, including a long-sleeve shirt underneath. As a result, either someone is freezing or someone is suffering from heat stroke. There needs to be genuine men's formal wear that is lightweight and non-restrictive. Additionally, there needs to be modern women's formal wear with sleeves, covered backs, and possibly a coat. Story 30. The dark truth is that sexual assault is generally viewed as absolutely horrendous when it involves a man assaulting a woman. However, when the roles are reversed, it is often perceived as, "Oh, what a lucky guy," or "I bet he enjoyed it," accompanied by numerous jokes. This perspective comes from someone who was sexually assaulted multiple times as a teenager. Obviously, not everyone sees it this way, but the blatant difference in how each situation is treated and viewed cannot be denied. One is taken far more seriously than the other. To be honest, this applies to any form of abuse, as it is all perceived very differently and portrayed differently when men are the victims. Story 31. Men who have children are expected to perform better at their jobs, while women are considered less productive and expected to focus solely on their families. Men assist their wives by babysitting their own children. Story 32. 1. This is the biggest one. Male sexual assault is often not taken seriously compared to female sexual assault, which is bad enough. I have seen people online, both men and women, ridicule a man for speaking out about his experiences. Absolutely disgusting behavior. 2. Gender-based medical discrimination. I walk into a doctor's office as a girl and everything, no matter what I walked in for, is attributed to my period. I have never once gone in for issues related to my period. Mind you. 3. Baby changing stations are always in the ladies' room. 4. Man kidnaps baby equals evil. Woman kidnaps baby equals she probably had good intentions. 5. You are a girl, so you must be good with babies or children, right? Story 33. People still default to asking my husband about our dog just because she is a masculine breed or whatever. She was my dog for years before we moved in together. I trained her. I designed her diet. She refers to me as the ultimate authority. But since she is a German Shepherd, she must be my husband's dog. Story 34. I think the worst double standard is that men, as the majority in governments, have a significant influence on laws regarding women's bodies, while women have almost no influence on laws regarding men's bodies. Story 35. Normalization of women abusing and neglecting their partners. I have often seen and heard women do things that would lead to men being imprisoned if the roles were reversed. Story 36. For a few years, I did most of the household work on top of earning money because my wife went through some serious mental challenges. I never complained about it, and I have no problem with it. My wife eventually got a job anyway. She still doesn't do a lot in the household, and it still doesn't bother me. She is a wonderful woman. There are going to be a few little quirks. That comes with being human. Here is what does bother me. The few times I mentioned it in conversation, people assumed this was not true. They thought I was lying or exaggerating because, I guess, men cannot do the dishes or take out the trash. Men are seen as oppressors, women as the oppressed, and you are not allowed to be a decent human being as a man. That part drove me crazy for a while. Story 37. On television, the least attractive men often end up with attractive women. You rarely see an unattractive woman paired with an attractive man, unless the difference is central to the story. Story 38. Cooking is traditionally expected of women in the home, while professional kitchens are dominated by men. Women trying to succeed in this field face many challenges. Story 39. Annoying women being rude to service workers get them branded as a Karen, but no one says anything about the annoying and entitled men harassing service workers. This is interesting because I encounter them more often. Story 40. If men dress more femininely, they are often ridiculed, whereas for women, no one notices, and they can essentially wear the same clothes as men. Story 41. When a woman hits a man, people may just watch and might even think it is justified. However, he should not raise his hand to retaliate because hitting a woman is considered wrong. Story 42. That men are babysitting their own children. How do you babysit your own child? No, active loving fathers exist and actually acknowledge their part in childcare. For the child carrying half their DNA. The old-fashioned ideas around gender, parenting, and parental roles are toxic. Story 43. When a woman is alone at a park, it is assumed she is a mother watching her child. However, when a man is alone at a park, it is assumed he is a creep there to look at children. Story 44. I was just talking to my boyfriend about how women are given many emotional outlets and are encouraged to get in touch with their emotions, while men are pushed into one of two boxes. No emotion or only anger as an emotion. I told him I didn't realize how fortunate I was to have almost all the men in my life be very open about how they've been feeling. Some people genuinely don't realize men can be that way and believe men shouldn't feel anything. Story 45. I heard a story yesterday about a man who did not want to be exclusive, meaning he wanted to date or sleep around, which is acceptable. However, he did not want any of the women he was seeing to do the same. They all had to be exclusive to him. Make it make sense. Story 46. I will always say that if girls can wear pants, then boys can wear dresses and skirts. Clothes have no gender. Story 47. Breastfeeding versus formula feeding infants. If you breastfeed, you are supposed to do it discreetly and privately. It is a natural human function. People act as if it is something unusual when done publicly. Do you want me to feed my infant or not? If you do not breastfeed, you are suddenly considered a bad parent because apparently formula is inferior. Yes, there are medical guidelines that prefer breastfeeding, but not everyone can or wants to. Story 48. Women are often underestimated when it comes to knowledge about cars, guns, construction, or home repairs. For example, at the oil change shop, guys might say, "Oh, wait, you know what those numbers mean?" When I declined an upsell for 5W30 oil in an area that doesn't experience freezing temperatures. When buying a home during inspection and renovations, I have arguments about installing GFI outlets in series rather than being overcharged for multiple outlets. Car dealers sometimes ask, "Do you know how to drive a manual transmission?" When my dad offers me a turn for a test drive, it is just exhausting. Story 49. In the United States, it seems that the courts do not see that the father is as important to a child as the mother. This makes me very sad for both the child and the father, because fathers love their children just as much and are equally invested. It is archaic thinking and hurtful to good fathers who would move mountains for their children. I am glad it is less discriminatory where I live. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.